53 shot and 11 dead over Memorial Day weekend. And the response from newly installed Mayor BLM Brandon was this, another instant classic.
We have a lot of work to do in the city.
Traumatized communities, traumatizing the city. So we got to get to root causes. Okay. Well, that's one way to talk about it. That's one way to approach it. To get reaction from a representative of part of Chicago's business community, Roger Romanelli joins us. He's the executive director of the Fulton Market Association, over West Loop Way, Walter Burnett land, where you've got a lot of new businesses and boutique hotels, and always been a great restaurant row there. Restaurant rows, now plural. Roger, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Morning. So how do you react to what the mayor had to say about this past weekend?
Nothing worked in Chicago this past weekend. It was an epic failure. It was disgusting, reprehensible, and we're all lucky to be alive. Anybody who works or lives in Chicago right now is lucky to be alive.
What happened in Fulton Market?
I did not get any specific reports of any violent crimes or unusual crimes in the market that I know of. I scan all the news articles and I get feeds from different sources. But the truth is, all across the city was mayhem, violence, and got this guy in Lakeview walking on the street. Somebody rolls up out of a car and just kills him. So it could have happened in Fulton Market, could have happened anywhere.
Right. So I've seen the releases over the last several years calling for more help, you and your organization and business owners in that neck of the woods, in addition to business owners in Old Town and all neighborhoods around the city making the same calls. Doesn't seem to be resonating. So what is the local business community to do?
Yeah, I just want to set the stage a little bit for that, if I could. In Chicago, there are about 90 community-based chambers of commerce like ourselves, neighborhood-based groups. Our group is business-oriented, so we don't have, thousands of residents or voters involved. So we're a business group in Fulton Market, okay? And we also extend all the way west to Garfield Park. We've got businesses and members out on Lake Street all the way out to Cicero. I have not seen other groups hold the kind of press conferences that we've been holding. I mean, we are demanding immediate solutions to save people's lives. So I really haven't seen some of my counterparts step up. A lot of them get city money, so they shut up and they say nothing. I know you talked about it on your show last week, and I hope we can talk about a few of those points. But Mr. Prof, look at what happened to this kid getting killed in Lakeview.
I know, we've talked about
it. Let me just say, this red Kia car pulls up. These criminals get out of the car and kill this guy. Now, other cities have modern surveillance cameras where if this red Kia car license plate could have been captured on a camera and then that license plate put on a citywide network to go get these criminals. And we have used cameras repeatedly in Fulton Market to arrest criminals.
So you have that type of...
It's another issue.
Sorry, you have that type of technology in your area?
I do not believe we have that either in Fulton Market or I don't know anywhere in Chicago. I mean, we're working with camera companies that are trying to sell cameras to private businesses and the city. We've asked them, go figure out, does the city have this technology? They don't think they do. Other cities do. So what we're saying is a lot of these crimes are being committed by criminals, by cowardice criminals out of control who are driving their vehicles.
Well, I bet that was a stolen vehicle. I mean, it's conjecture on my part, but mostly like Kia's the number
whatever.
one
You
car
track
sold,
it. You track where it was stolen and so on and so forth. I mean,
You
Obviously,
can track it with the license plate, make, model of the car, and it can be put on the citywide network. Our problem is we're seeing articles where the city of Chicago is spending $25,000 per camera. I mean, that's got to be classic City Hall, rotten, stinking corruption. So what we're saying is look at San Diego, look at what they're doing in Hawaii, Look at some other cities, they're putting in a network of cameras. They're not paying anywhere close to 25 grand. We need those cameras, and we think that will be one effective solution to fight crime.
Yeah, and GF Structures must have gotten into the camera business or something. Here's the thing, and I know you take issue with me characterizing you as begging the city for cameras, as I did last week. That's what I said.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Keep going.
Okay. So, but here's my point about the business community. Generally speaking, not specific to you, but it's just because you were on Fox Business opposite Terry Duffy, and so it was an opportunity to comment on it generally and use this as an example, which is to say that everyone is loath to question the motives of the people in charge of the city. What are they really attempting to do? And despite the behavior that tells you in no uncertain terms what their intentions are, what their perspective is, what they will do and what they won't do. And so I understand the desire to be productive and say, well, at least you could do this. At least you could provide the cameras that provide disincentive, so that provide the possibility of police making quick arrests, that provide more disincentive. I get it. But what I don't get is the unwillingness to call out the principles here and say what is true, which is, are you really, at least question, are you really interested in stopping violent crime in this city? Because I don't think people who talk about silly kids as part of a mob that beats up an individual, like happened a few weeks ago around Millennium Park, that talks about 53 shot and 11 dead as the manifestations of trauma from the lack of investment on the west and south sides. Those are people who are not serious about protecting the businesses in your association. I don't know how else to say it.
Solving this issue has to take a couple different points here. Okay, now in terms of our group, we have, unlike almost, I haven't seen, like I said, any other chamber in the city. In our press release that you received, we called directly on Mayor Johnson to basically not ever use the word silly when we're talking about serious crime, and he has to set an unwavering anti-crime, pro-safety message in our city. If you break the law, you're going to get caught and you're going to get prosecuted. Absolutely. At the same time, Dan, on our board and in our membership, we have a group called Haymarket Center. You familiar with Haymarket
Yeah,
Center?
I know Haymarket very well, actually.
Okay. So Haymarket, in our view, needs more city funding, no corruption here, more city funding to get people off illegal drugs so they stop buying their illegal drugs from these criminal, violent gangs who are destroying our city. All right? Now, the big piece that we're not missing in this crime discussion is the rotten, stinking corruption at City Hall. We are sitting on $277 million in the Fulton Market TIF district alone. The city is sitting on probably $2 to $3 billion in these secretive neighborhood TIF money. So I ask you, can we give more money to Haymarket Center and less money to these rotten, corrupt deals that are happening at City Hall? We think that can impact crime. So we want the cameras, we want zero tolerance on crime, and we want to get people off of drugs so they're not buying drugs from gangs. Is that something that resonates with you?
Haymarket does great work. I know them well, going back to when Tom Roser was a board member. I'm all for nonprofits like Haymarket that do important and effective work in treating people with addiction. I'm all for surveillance cameras. I'm all for hiring 2,000 police to get the force back up to where it needs to be. I'm all for leadership on the fifth floor and the Cook County State's Attorney's Office that removes violent offenders from our streets for extended periods of time, commensurate with the law. I'm for all of the above. But I hear the talk, and I agree. You put out a lot of communications, and you're speaking up. But I mean, I just everything is in the city, and this is not specific to you. Again, this is beyond you. It's a more comment on the C-suites and the business communities too. They're afraid. You're afraid of getting jacked around by your alderman. You're afraid of getting jacked around by the eighth floor. You're afraid of getting jacked around by the fifth floor. And so people don't make more demands of elected officials. The only way this works to get public officials to do things they're otherwise not inclined to do, as this group is not inclined to do it, unless you live in a few wards that are not yours, is to put pressure on them, relentless pressure. And I just don't see that happening where names are being named and there is a relentlessness that the circumstances demand.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, and so let me just simply say, we're not begging for anything, Dan, and
right.
I really hope that at some point you'll take that back. What we're saying is we're asking you, the media, you in particular, I'd love it if you had a show where we get some of these camera guys on to tell you how much they can spend per camera to put up cameras all around the city. And it's not anywhere close to $25,000. I'm telling you, Dan and Amy, what we have to get to solve our problems in Chicago is we have to clean up one of the dirtiest and most corrupt towns financially on the globe. Right now, we have at least $2 billion in these secretive neighborhood TIF monies controlled by these aldermen, many of whom are rotten and corrupt. And we have to, if we're going to solve the problem, we have to have access to the tax dollars, these property taxes people have paid. The other issue we've called in our press release, as you see, is zero, zero, and zero new taxes until Mayor Johnson makes these TIF districts fully transparent and fully understandable. How much is in each TIF? What are you using it for? How are you fighting crime? Don't even talk about new taxes until you unveil this TIF money, which again, Dan and Amy, no other city on the globe is using these secretive TIF slush funds like Chicago.
So
well,
then
don't you have to work with your alderman on this?
Yeah, what does Burnett say?
Very interesting. Well, Walter Burnett just supported an $18 million TIF grant for a venture capital group that has gotten millions of dollars of investment, and there were no community hearings on this issue. Was that really a wise use of our TIF dollars? I mean, you're talking about some deals that have been going down that are shocking. We've never seen this kind of money being thrown around in Fulton Market. So I don't speak for the alderman. All I can say is we've asked Burnett to put in security cameras as of last September when that sidewalk cafe got shot up and somebody else got shot up, another car on Lake Street. First in the paper, he said we can't use TIF money to pay for the cameras. Then he said to Craig Dellamore on BBM, yeah, we can use the TIF money, but it's up to the police to where we got to put them. And then last week he said we can't use TIF money for the cameras. I mean, we cannot. That's why we're appealing directly to Johnson. Mayor Johnson has to declare, can we use this basically $2 to $3 billion in TIF money to put up cameras and solve crime? The answer better be absolutely yes. Better be absolutely yes. And if any politician wants to block the use of these neighborhood TIF money, neighborhood property tax money, boy, oh boy, there should be massive hearings on that. That TIF money is neighborhood money, and fighting crime has to be number one.
By the way, just in terms of the list, there was a man, 33-year-old man, who was shot and is in critical condition. He was shot at the corner of Randolph and Sangamon. To your point about nowhere is safe, even though Fulton Market has been more safe than other places. Have you seen? Are you hearing from businesses that are members that I know this is an area where a lot of young professionals live. Have you seen their businesses off because people don't want to come downtown, or people who are in the neighborhood don't want to go out past a certain time?
Unfortunately, that is absolutely correct. We are seeing sales down. We are seeing businesses report that they used to have groups and parties come into their businesses, especially folks from the suburbs. Not happening. Sales are down. People are extremely, extremely disappointed. And again, if other cities are solving or using these technologies and cameras, that's something we can do. So I would just encourage everybody. We're asking everybody in Chicago, if they want to get involved in our effort, our website is fultonmarketchicago.org, and we welcome all residents and all businesses to give us their input. But at the end of the day, your property taxes being paid by everybody listening in Chicago, you are paying out the nose on property taxes. I don't know how people pay their property tax bill. No new taxes at all until we solve this TIF issue of them blocking our money from having neighborhood input on how our money is supposed to be used. That's what they promised, Dan and Amy, when they put this TIF program in the beginning, that there'd be community involvement in the decisions. That's been completely taken out over the past 25 years.
And by the way, send us the contact info on your camera guy. We'll talk to him. But in addition to that, what about, as you were talking about the different neighborhood associations around the city? There are some that are very active, like yours, like Old Town Association, Michigan Avenue to some extent. What about a collaboration? I mean, are there communications between all these associations that are sort of similarly situated with the same bills of particular that you could, essentially come together to apply more political pressure than any one of you can do individually as a group?
Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice? I used to sit on the board of the Chicago Association of Neighborhood Development Organizations, a group called Can Do. They became so corrupted by City Hall that they went out of business in the early part of the millennium here. They went out of business. The whole neighborhood association, citywide association, fizzled. We tried to put it back together about 12 years ago, and again, City Hall undermined the whole operation. And they picked people off and gave them contracts and said, nope, we're not forming a new citywide organization. So I have been involved with that. I have tried to move that forward, and I'll check with the Old Town folks and the Michigan Avenue folks. We need a citywide association, that's for sure, and so that's a great point. And I appreciate those constructive points as opposed to you allowing callers to come on the phone and blast me as a professional, which you did on May 24th. And again, Dan, I can't believe it, but my focus is on constructive solutions.
I'm blanking on what you're referring. I mean, I know.
Let a guy named Andy from Hinsdale come on the phone and say, "I've been an urban planner, but what have I done for Chicago?" And you both laughed about what I have been working for nonprofits for 33 years in Andersonville, Pilsen, Albany Park, Fulton Market, and the West Side to make our city better. So, if you're going to talk about me, please just have me on the show. I'm trying to bring solutions. Please don't laugh about me and make fun of me and mock me. That would be nice.
Okay, all right. I mean, hey, it's rough and tumble out there. Join the club, but I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on the show. You're always welcome to come on the show to hash things out, and I'm glad you came straight away and challenged me on the begging comment. That's fine. This provides additional context. This is the first time we've spoken, and you've come on the show, though we've tried to get you before.
Lives.
So, all right. Very good.
I appreciate, one time, and I apologize for missing that show. I was working on the restaurant issue to try to get restaurants reopened after COVID. Listen.
Well, by the way, by the way, that's a whole nother thing too. I mean, and maybe you heard this too, but the Restaurant Association, the Chicago Restaurants, Illinois Restaurants. I mean, I know everybody's got to work together. Maybe everybody comes together on this public safety issue because they should, because it's a no-brainer. But that's a good example of a lack of courage where the Illinois Restaurant Association in particular was bootlicking Pritzker and Lightfoot while people's businesses were being taken away from them effectively. And, it's like in those moments you need people to step up, just as you're stepping up now on the violence issue. And I just, my personal opinion, I don't see enough of that from the business community. I know it's unfair, and I know you got to deal with what you got to deal with, the landscape as it is, but getting beaten up in a back alley just doesn't work. And you're not doing that now. I'll give you credit for that. But a lot of other business, quote unquote, leaders are. And that's a problem.
We all got to come together. We've got to fight. But I will tell you, last point is that businesses are frightened of retribution from their aldermen and City Hall. And that is one of the number one problems. And several businesses I know of have been threatened with certain services if they got involved in any dissent about what's happening in City Hall. So there's
I
good
wish you
reason
could name those businesses and who's threatening them.
Well, I wish those businesses would go to not Kim Fox's office, but 219 South Dearborn and share their stories. That's something they could do.
Yes, it would be nice. It would also be nice if every alderman in the city had a challenger during their campaigns. But when you have aldermen that run unopposed, where they have 40,000 voters in their ward and nobody steps up to run against them, I mean, you got you have a problem there because then you don't have a political check on that unbridled power. So let us commit to zero crimes, save lives and no more political corruption in the city. And again, thank you for letting me be on the show.
Roger Romanelli, Executive Director of the Fulton Market Association. Thanks for joining us.
Take it easy.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
A storm is on the horizon, and you need to keep the lights on no matter what. Your business relies on the power being on 24/7. It's the lifeblood of your data and computer systems. Weather-related outages from the power company are not acceptable. Your need for a source of power that's reliable 24/7, along with round-the-clock service that can dispatch technicians to your site immediately, is mission critical. Your business needs Charles Equipment Energy Systems on speed dial. These are the big boys, not residential or solar, but reliable industrial generators for emergency backup or events. When you need more than a 100-foot extension cord plugged into a small engine generator, call Charles Equipment Energy Systems. They keep the lights on with rental generators for job sites or power outages. A storm is on the horizon. Plan ahead. Call now to prepare generators for storms and potential power outages. Call 630-834-6000, 630-834-6000, or charlesequipment.com.
AM 560. The Answer.
Got a email. This guy, meaning Romanelli, is so on point. My firm moved to West Fulton last August, 21,000 square feet of high A-tier offices on Green Street. It's a blank show, not a good show. We wish we had not done this. Cars vandalized, safety and security concerns, not even to mention the graffiti, garbage, rats, and dog excrement.
Jeez.
Big city living.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yay or nay on the debt ceiling deal? We'll ask Steve Moore at 8:38.
But now let's head straight into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
8:32, 75 degrees, partly sunny skies, and the House is scheduled to vote this evening on a bill to suspend the debt ceiling for 2 more years. Georgia Republican